if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you know that I am a big fan of traveling to historic places. My gosh, I named the series History Traveler for crying out loud. Well, right now, I am in Normandy, and we are in the 7th Corps area. The 7th Corps had landed on Utah Beach on D-Day with the 4th Infantry Division leading the way, had cut across the peninsula, had moved north with the 4th Infantry Division, the 79th and the 9th to take the deep water port of Cherbourg. And after that, there was a shift that they were going to take towards the east to start moving on St. Lo. And I am so stinking excited because right now we are just to kind of the south of St. Mary-Glise at the spot where the 7th Corps commander, Joe Collins, set up his headquarters during this phase of the Battle of Normandy. All right, we've moved into the inner walls of the Chateau de Franquetot. And this again is where the 7th Corps headquarters was after the fall of Cherbourg. Now, we've mentioned Joe Collins in some previous episodes, but haven't really talked about him very much. Joe Collins was a really, really good Corps commander. He had started off in World War II as the division commander for the 25th Infantry Division in the Battle of Guadalcanal. Performed exceptionally well there. He's an aggressive commander, but he's not reckless. And after Guadalcanal, he gets earmarked for the Corps command right here in the Battle of Normandy. And his nickname was Lightning Joe because, again, he's really aggressive. He always is looking for the high ground and taking advantage of terrain. Just exceptional in every way and does really good here in Normandy. Again, this is the Chateau de Franquetot. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Again, my French is terrible. But this is where, after the fall of Cherbourg, the 7th Corps sets up their headquarters. So it was from here that some big planning was going to be taking place as the 7th Corps is moving to the crossroads of Le Hay-du-Puy. Operation Cobra is going to be planned from right here. And Joseph Collins would have set up his headquarters here starting on July the 1st. And this was recently purchased and renovated by Philippe Tan. If you watched a video that we did a while back at Crisbeck Battery, Philippe is actually the one who renovated Crisbeck Battery and then has moved on to restore this place as well. We're going to go inside here to the museum in a little bit. Now, as we are getting ready to go in, there's a famous photo that we see here with Eisenhower and Bradley and Collins. And here they're discussing some matter concerning the Battle of Normandy that was raging in this area. And if you look right here at this door and this window, well, this very photo was taken right here. All right, we just got into the interior of the Collins Museum here. And my understanding from Philippe is that this whole building, when he bought it, was basically like a time capsule. It's like the 7th Corps left in 1944, and then it was just left as it was until he purchased it and began to restore it. And right here they have some photos of what this place looked like prior to the restoration. Look at this. I love people who are into restoration and preservation of historic places. So Philippe has a passion for history, and his family have a passion for history and preserving it. And look at the state of this place when he purchased it. You can tell there was a lot of work that went into this. All right, we're going to go on upstairs to the museum portion. All right, moving up the grand staircase, and wow, right into the command room for General Collins and the 7th Corps. Man, oh man. And one thing that I'm noticing right off the bat, look at the quality of the mannequins. I know that sounds kind of like a little bit of a history geek thing to, comment on the quality of the mannequins, but a lot of places that you go, like my mannequins at home are just like faceless blobs. Like there is so much detail. So here we have Omar Bradley, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and Lightning Joe Collins, the commander of the 7th Corps. This is really impressive. And one thing that Philippe was telling me as we were talking downstairs, he said that all of the furniture in here is original. The furniture was just sitting here when they bought this complex. Man, this is really something else.
So here we are in the original desk of the General Collins, and it is really the general desk, the general seat. Nothing changed since the war. In 1944, when he arrived, he put all his material here, and everything stay here since 80 years. Nothing moved.
Wow.
So when I bought the castle, we cleaned everything because it was full of dirty. And I put my mannequin, and this is it. Nothing changed. This is what it is very important. And I make mannequin with a 3D print, and the man after paint the face like Eisenhower, Collins and Bradley. They wear the same uniform like in 1944. For example, Bradley have boots, US Navy boots. It's funny for a general. And Collins have all the time goggles on his helmet.
Going to historic places and historic sites and museums, to me, is all about immersing yourself into the history so that you can kind of learn more about the whatever era it is that you're studying. And being in here, this is definitely an immersive experience. What they've done here is incredible, and I'm only in the first room. So Collins would have set up his command center here on July the 2nd. So think about what happened in this room. A lot of the planning, like for Operation Cobra, would have occurred right in this room with Eisenhower and Bradley and Patton. Yeah, really incredible. Now, the next room that we're going into is where Collins' bedroom would have been attached right here to the command center, but they've done something a little bit different with it. Now take a look at this. This room is just as cool as heck to me. What they've done here, even though this was originally Collins's bedroom here at this castle or chateau, what they've done is to recreate this to simulate an old Normandy barn that is just pack loaded with all kinds of material from the war that was left behind. So if we walk back over here, when you hear about barn finds, okay, this is kind of what we're talking about. So here we have some parachute material that is strung up. There's a parachute rig, and we have helmets and canteens and all kinds of stuff. And the stuff that we are looking at are things that they have legitimately found here in the Normandy area. This is so stinking cool to me. I love this. I'm going to back up for just a second and show some of the other things that are in here. Here they have a mannequin that is fully outfitted with what a paratrooper would have had on D-Day. So this guy is representing someone from the 101st Airborne. So here you can see the division patch on the left sleeve. And then it shows all of this gear. So he's got his Mae West life jacket on. And here's the reserve chute. He's got grenades. There's the little clicker right there to signal to other troops. And then up here on the helmet, you'll notice that little disc there. That's a little fluorescent disc so that the paratroopers could help. It would aid them in finding each other at night. So a lot of paratrooper activity, of course, right here in this area of Normandy. So they've included this to help us see what a paratrooper would have looked like on D-Day. Helmets, helmets, helmets. My gosh, this is one heck of a collection here in this room. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of every single one because that would just take forever. But I'll point out a few. So this helmet right here that you can see has some camouflage that has been applied belonged to a lieutenant by the name of Harold Carroll. He was in the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, which was the 82nd Airborne. He ended up being taken prisoner. And then we can look, at all these different helmets and see the different markings on them, which indicates, like what regiment they were in, or what role they served, or in some cases what division they were in. So here's a helmet liner from someone who was in the 1st Infantry Division. Here's one from the 29th Infantry Division. Get to the 4th Infantry Division, which would have been in this area that we are right now. Also in this area was the 90th Infantry Division. They followed the 4th Infantry Division in on Utah Beach. 90th Infantry Division, their nickname was Tough Hombres, even though hombre starts with an H instead of an O. But yeah, here's a helmet liner that would have belonged to one of those guys. And then we have some German helmets down here. One with a little bit of wire attached to it, which is near and dear to my heart. And then these are helmets that were recovered by Philippe and his family. So some pretty cool helmets here in relic condition. But yeah, that is one heck of a nice display. I really, really like this jacket. This is an M42 reinforced jump jacket that belonged to a paratrooper by the name of John Sivitz. He was in the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, which would put him in the 82nd Airborne. These guys dropped in what was called Drop Zone Inn, which was just north of a village called Peekaville. And John Civitz was one of the pathfinders. So these were the guys who went in really early before the main body of paratroopers and set up homing beacons and things like that. Here you can see Civitz's name stenciled in over the left breast pocket. What I really like about this jacket is John, I like how John thinks. He went in and modified his jump jacket even further than what some other paratroopers did, and did a little camouflage on his jacket. That is really neat. Here's something else in this room that's pretty cool. Now, when Philippe and his family were renovating this place, they widened this door, but this is the original door that would have led back into the commanding general's headquarters. And real faint in pencil there, you can read CG quarters, so commanding general quarters. Yeah, that's kind of a neat little touch. Here's another really interesting jump jacket that they have. This is the jump jacket that belonged to a guy named Carl Burr. Carl Burr, as you can see, was in the 101st Airborne. He was in the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, and I believe, from what I understand, was in Headquarters Company. But he was actually wounded on D-Day. And take a look at this. Right here, you can see the hole that resulted from the wound that he sustained. But yeah, this is his jump jacket. He went on to jump in Operation Market Garden, and unfortunately didn't survive the war. He was killed in action on January 3rd, 1945. He's buried in the Luxembourg Cemetery. And they have a picture of him right here. Yeah, so this is Lieutenant Carl Burr. Here's a neat little detail that's another reminder to us of what occurred here. You can see etched into this windowsill, it says HQ Company, so Headquarters Company, 7th Corps. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Now, the grounds here had to be wrestled away from the Germans on June 6th, and the men who fought here on the American side were members of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, which would have been part of the 82nd Airborne. So in this room right here, now we got, I just had a C-47 fly by. This room right here is depicting the action that would have occurred in and around this house. And one thing that I like is they've left a lot of this kind of unrestored to reflect, just the chaos that ensued around here. Here's something that Philippe was telling me that's pretty interesting. This wardrobe back here behind this soldier, this was here in this room when they bought the castle. And not only that, all of those clothes were still in it. So you're seeing a lot of original furnishings here in this home. Yeah, I really, really like what they've done in here. Here's something else that they've done that I really, really like. They have some depictions of the German soldiers who would have been in this area. So that would be like the 6th Fallschirmjäger, also the 17th SS. And by the way, all the stuff that you were seeing are like period uniforms, so no reproductions. Wow. All right, I'm coming back through to the other side of the museum now, and the room that we are looking at here, which again is just done so well, this would have been the command room in July of 1944. So again, as I've already mentioned, like this billiards table is original. All of the furniture in here was here when they renovated this place, and they just left it as it was. So you're really looking at a bit of a time capsule here. But the command room is where all of the radio equipment would have been. So this would have been a hive of activity. And there would have been a generator outside on a GMC truck that would have been operating 24 hours a day in order to provide power to this facility. And if you look up above, now this wasn't here when they renovated the place, but it's just these little details here. They've strung up wire all around here, just like what they would have had in 1944. And even on the ceiling, I don't know if you can really see it or not, but there are hooks up there on the ceiling that American troops put here in order to string cable through this room. Another thing that likely would have occurred in this room is the interrogation of prisoners. So they have a few German soldiers who are in here as well, depicting the interrogation of prisoners during the Battle of Normandy. So much detail in this place. If you're fighting a war, you got to eat, right? Well, this room right here is where they stored all of the rations to feed the men who were operating this facility. They also take the opportunity here in this room to talk about the Red Ball Express, which of course was a major logistical supply line that operated here in Normandy. And they also had this French child who is in this room to depict the civilians who lived here in the area. And kids would come in and maybe supplement the army rations with local food like fresh eggs and things like that. But yeah, this is the room where all of the food was kept. All right, and this room right here, next to the room where all the food was kept, is where the staff would sleep, or one of the rooms where the staff would sleep. So you can see they've got some bunks that are set up, got a little privacy curtain made out of some parachute material. So you got to eat and you've got to sleep. So this is where some of these soldiers would have caught up on the ladder. All right, well that was something else. That museum is really, really cool. If you ever come to Normandy, definitely put this on your list of places to visit, the Collins Museum. And again, I may have mentioned this earlier, but this is also a bed and breakfast. So you can actually stay here at the Collins Museum. But yeah, very glad that we came here today. This is really well done, great preservation story, and some great history right here in Normandy.